I have and I will continue praising Cuttlefish for his ability to create his own world and history for everything except clothing, which is fair enough. If you do not feel confident in your knowledge, it's a fair thing to not elaborate on. But that means the fan art is going to be all over the place since there is no established culture of clothing, no fashionable silhouette of any type, and no coherency. We get characters who are supposed to be friends whose clothing differs by a solid century. And I know I'm like the only reader complaining about that, but let me complain. I am confused, I am outraged, and I hope I can get someone else also in this boat. So firstly, I need to deconstruct your ideas on historical fashion. No, corsets and corset-like garments, so stays and pairs of bodies, are not bad, nor are they agents of patriarchy. If they were, women would not have worn them for nearly 4 centuries. They are well-designed bras that help with posture and prevent back and shoulder pain. Also, corsets for men were a thing. No, the beauty standards weren't worse than today. I could actually argue that modern standards are worse, since historical fashion focused on the garment and shape, or the illusion of shape, while a lot of modern fashion focuses on the physical body itself, and thus we get diet culture. No, people were not dumb. Clothing had function, and there is logic behind why things were as they were. So firstly, I need everyone here to understand the relevant fashion styles or eras and history, and why the current outfits make no sense. I have made 3 general and broad categories for the fashion styles for the 18th and 19th century, since this is the time frame the story takes inspiration from, and they go in this general cycle. Big skirt and ornate decor eras. Rococo, obviously, most prevalent with the 1750s court dresses. So when an average person thinks Rococo, this is the category. It is followed by the pre-Victorian England dollification era, also known as Romanticism, so the 1830s, which big skirt, big sleeve, puffy lacy cute. It's very self-explanatory. Then we get the coronation of Victoria and it all dies down a bit, but then we get the hoop skirt, and 1850s and 1860s follow the same big skirt strategy. Bustle eras. The illusion of big butt, essentially, in its most watered down concept. But it would be just to say gatherings and focus on the back, but I am not sure how aware of historical styles people are. The first bustle era ranged from the 1770s to 1790s, and it is my personal favorite. Robe à la Polonaise and Robe à la Anglaise Retoussée are so cool, so gorgeous, just look at them. The second bustle era was late Victorian, so 1870s to 1890s. So this is when you get all of the men comparing women to box jokes. If you have seen any kind of illustration like that, this is from that era. And finally, the naturalist era. For the 18th century, it is the neoclassical style and the beginning of Regency era. So think Bridgerton-esque, empire waistline, very flowy. And for the 19th century, it is the late Victorian fashion and the beginning of Edwardian era. Yes, I know that these eras are technically in the beginning of the next century, but I have a narrative here to follow. And before you go, but Lowen is UK and USA inspired. First of all, the States as a country came to existence in what you would call late Rococo, like I am labeling it under the bustles era. And even after that, the rich followed European fashion trends, so I will keep talking about those. And second of all, Intis is literally France, so that is relevant. Okay, so we have established the general shapes and the cycle their shapes follow. Big skirt, back skirt, close body. So it is time for me to battle the beast of Lord of the Mysteries clothing. I have gone with the idea that women's fashion is mostly 1770s to 1780s inspired, and men's fashion is 1840s to 50s inspired. Half of the reason is that these are my personal favorite fashion decades. The other half is composed of some proof from the text and arts, especially Audrey's arts, and as well as the reasoning that I genuinely don't think Roselle cared that much about modernizing women's fashion. And like, I'm sorry, but men's high fashion literally has not changed between the 19th century and now, so that would be realistically the closest he could get to modern day clothes. That is obviously bypassing all of the history of different textiles, but I shall dip my toes into that rabbit hole as well. So, the first textiles to get out of the way are synthetics. Research into them technically began in the 1870s, but first, like, actually successful results became a thing in 1920s to 1930s, and I genuinely don't think it's a widespread thing if it exists at all. The next textile innovation thing was denim. And first I was like, nah, I don't remember no mention of denim. But lo and behold, there indeed was one and only mention of jeans in chapter 68, Monster, when talking about the half sequence monster pathway guy. And firstly, I did not like it, because you want me to believe that Roselle might have been responsible for denim, but it is so niche and unpopular that it is mentioned once. But I'm gonna go out here and follow the idea that Roselle actually is not responsible for everything modernish in the series. No, when I point out the plot hole, you cannot just slap the Roselle caused it, duct tape on it, and call it a day without questioning any further. And exactly like in the 1840s 50s, which I said to be the men's fashion time, denim is the new thing popular with workers and most likely also in the southern continent. And the internal logic actually seems to hold water. So let's make a textile timeline. Pre-colonization, pre-Roselle, we've got linen and wool that are the textiles. Could probably have some niche ones as well, like Utah or hemp, popping up here or there. Through colonization, we get cotton as a fabric, but that is extremely expensive and thus mostly for the aristocrats. Through Roselle and his fancy modern and Asian knowledge, we get silk because we like the Eastern fashion in the world, but in the story itself, silk is mentioned a lot, which would also explain its popularity since everything Roselle did or liked is considered cool. Roselle passes, and we get 200 years of colonies and industrialization. Through that, the production of cotton increases, the cost decreases, and even factory workers start to wear cotton. The workers need the fabric to be more durable, and thus we get the innovation of denim. So, artists, if anyone is listening, I expect to start seeing some cowboy German fan arts because technically it should canonically work. And like combining the holy trinity of pirates, cowboys, and vampires into the world building is the second best thing to happen to Lord of the Mysteries. So, let's talk a bit about the characters now. Audrey's official art makes me experience joy, misery, confusion, and enlightenment, all at the same time. It's accurate to the 18th century, it's inaccurate to the overall world. It has parts that make no sense to me, but yet it seems to work. At first, the waist leather corset abomination made me want to fist fight whoever designed it, because it didn't make any sense. It doesn't serve any structural purpose. It doesn't make sense given her aristocratic background, and in my humble opinion, it doesn't even look good. But then I realized Audrey dreams to be a beyonder, an adventurer, and that's the purpose it serves. It's an everyday dress that conforms to the presumed beauty standard, but nevertheless gives her a chance to express her interests. So, however much I have side-eyed the design, this one actually makes sense. I like Force as a character. She's relatable, she's chill. I never want to see art of her because that makes me cry. Sure, the inspiration is from the 18th and 19th century, but riddle me this, why does she wear Edwardian and modern clothing? And I'm not even kidding. Look up lacy Edwardian blouse, and this is literally what she's wearing. Her skirt is something you could find in a clothing store at this moment. And yes, okay, by being delusional enough, you could call it a shorter version of late Victorian walking skirt. But you can't even try an argument about her being a commoner, because she is an influential author who mingles with the aristocrats, so she should follow fashion trends. And it is such a loss of potential when you have a time-appropriate fashion movement that embodies everything she stands for. Therefore, here is my case. Put her in neoclassical. Neoclassical as a style emerged in the latter half of the 18th century, which goes hand in hand with our understanding of higher class style. It was popular with the artists and the creative circles and focused on rediscovering ancient civilizations, which, how many runes did we check out in the story? And what did Klein study in university? And who is Force connected to? I rest my case. And it sounds like it would work timeline-wise. The style itself is lighter, flowier, and easier to wear than the Rococo style. It is literally perfect when considering Force's character, and just how much would that add to the world building if we had like a paragraph or two sprinkled throughout the books of her bringing forth or being one of the icons for this style. Side tangent, why do characters' boobs look like that? Is everyone just wearing the Edwardian pigeon-breasted style corsets? Do they have modernish bras? Why do they hang on a natural level in a historically inspired style? And it's not only a force problem, because like Audrey's dress would require a bone stay or a corset to distribute the weight of the skirts, which mean her breasts should be pushed up, which they obviously are not. And why is the hair just half up, half down modern beach waves? Have some courage and give Audrey the time-accurate mullet. And hats. I need to see and hear more about the usage of hats. Because like pre-1940s, hats were what purses are today, to the rich obviously. I'm fully aware that the average woman does not have 5+ custom-made purses. And I need more appreciation for hats, because they were extremely useful and very cool looking. Merlin is a silly guy. Give him silly pantaloons, give him breeches. And even if you go with the "it's Victorian inspired bro" argument, such pants had not simply disappeared. Sure, most people, especially high society, wore modern looking pants from like 1830s or 40s onward, but that doesn't mean other forms of pants did not exist. And like breeches give off the exact whimsy and anachronism that is necessary for Merlin. Let him feel out of place and out of time. And like, there are canonically scenes of him wearing really, really big, silly hats and black robes and everything. So I need to see more of that in art. Thank you. Merlin is literally the absurdism persona of Klein. Give this man a huge hat, breeches, and a pirate shirt, not a boring ass copy paste of every well off side character. Now, the entire reason for this video was Leah's outfit, and it has genuinely caused me months of stress. I see that she wore a snug white pleated cashmere dress with a small off-white coat and a pair of Marcellian boots. There were two tiny silver bells fastened to her veil and boots. They jingled as she walked into the tavern, drawing the attention of many, especially the men, and there is cold sweat running down my back. So I'm going to break it down piece by piece so everyone else can also comprehend how absolutely insane of an outfit it is. White cashmere, yes, realistic, but insanely expensive choice, especially for field work. With our current production, white cashmere can go for anything between 70 but more likely around 250 euros per meter, which is very expensive because you need at least 2 meters of fabric for dresses, but time accurately it would be more like 5+ for low end and 10+ for high end. And you can bet it used to be even more expensive. And don't get me wrong, I am not complaining about the color choice. White is pretty good since you can just bleach it, but I don't think you want to bleach cashmere. Pleated dress. So while I can think about examples of pleated skirts or a part of the bodice being pleated, I cannot figure out exactly what Cuttlefish was trying to imagine. And cashmere wasn't even used a lot for gowns. It was mostly shawls or scarves, and very, very rare for anything else. And why would anyone ever want to make pleats of cashmere except for the absolute flex of having that kind of fuck you money? Because cashmere is a stretchy fabric and it does not bounce back. And pleats require like double the fabric. And while sure, Leah can afford some cashmere with the mid sequence beyond her pay, if anything, it's more in the Audrey, my monthly allowance is 10 times the upper middle class yearly income realm. Snug. It is both snug and pleated. Why is it snug? Is it the fashionable silhouette? Then what about others' outfits? Is it the difference between Lowanese and Intis fashion? But if they are neighboring countries, then why is the fashion so different? I have genuinely lost months worth of sleep over this little description. And finally, a shout out to the character with best fashion fan art, my darling Bethel Abraham. The lack of official art has truly freed you and given the space necessary for the gorgeous, gorgeous Byzantine style Bethel arts. Artists, drop another Bethel Abraham in the fashion of different eras art, and my life is yours.